Hello there, and welcome to another video, guys. Today we're gonna see the third and final build guide for me for Betrayal League because due to my exams in the university I have limited time to play the game, and I am really bored of Betrayal, to tell you the truth, and I'm just waiting for the next league. So this time around we are not gonna talk about a very cheap build that is OP and can do all content, but instead we're gonna talk about a champion that is designed to take on all content easily if you know the fight, that has over 2 million DPS, and it's a very classic build. I mean, a champion that uses Blade Flare as the single target damage, as I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Has been used for a long time now, but I actually designed. I did not design. I made this build just to test the state of Blade Flare, let's say. So the character is the LL Impaler. I used this one when I was trying the Southern Steel skill, but it turned out not to be so great, so I changed it and I built this particular build. So he's level 92. This time around we are not gonna do an exhibition in a map, but instead I'm going to be uploading an Uber Elder kill, so you can see the single target damage and how it performs in endgame scenarios, let's say. Okay, let's start. So before we talk about the gear, I would like to say that it is not a noob friendly build, it is not easy, it is not cheap, and I'm going to talk why. So what I did in order to make this guy was actually to farm my way up to a lot of currency and assemble the build piece by piece. Starting with the chest that is a lore weave. As you can see, I used my lore weave in order to upgrade it with some syndicate action, so it can get a white socket and 28% quality, but it doesn't really matter. You want a lore weave because it provides you with the all attributes, because it is a little bit difficult to get the intelligence needed for the build. And then the stats you're gonna look for is a good amount of critical strike chance, some good life, a good elemental damage roll, and of course your maximum resistance is to be capped at 80%. If you were to actually try and make your own lore weave, and by making the lore weave on your own, I mean spamming divines on an already existing lore weave, the first thing you must have is the 80% always, because 5% plus to every elemental resistance equals to a 15 always plus, and it can make a very huge difference in endgame scenarios. The second roll you would like to have is a very good critical strike chance roll, because this is a crit build, and to tell you the truth, I believe it is more important to have a good strike chance roll rather than an elemental damage roll. And as for the elemental, you can see I run a 37% lore weave, but if it were an ideal scenario here, a 40% plus roll would be ideal. Okay, this is for the chest. Now we are gonna talk about the helmet. The helmet is a very cheap one, and it was actually the cheapest part of the build, I believe. And this is because it just provides us with life and some resistances and some intelligence, as you can see. And the nice thing about the helmet is the mod that says that 10% of physical damage from hits is taken as cold damage instead. So it's kinda running a taste of hate, but not really. But it is a nice layer of defense that provides us with some survivability during endgame scenarios, because my life is 5.2k. It is not something to be wowed about, and you have to be careful, to tell you the truth, and sometimes you will die if you're not familiar with the fight you're gonna enter. Now, let's talk about the weapons. So, um, they are both dual foils. They are one-handed swords that I have multi-crafted. And before we actually say what we need to have on these swords, we have to explain a little bit of the theory behind the build for the new players that might watch this build guide. So, the idea here is to use the modes that say we gain a percent of physical damage as extra damage of an element. As you can see here, we have a 20% of physical damage gained as extra cold damage, and in the other sword we have a physical damage as extra fire damage. And the theory behind the build and the logic is that we build a lot of physical damage, we scale it with our passive skill tree, and then we use our pieces of gear that we have equipped in order to gain extra elemental damage based on a percent of our physical damage. This is not damage converted. Some new players might mix those two up. There are notes on the tree like these ones that they say that a percent of physical damage is converted to cold damage. This doesn't mean you gain extra damage, it just means that 20% of every hit is actually dealt as cold damage in this example, okay? While in the build, when you have a stat like this one, you have all of your physical damage dealt as per usual, but you deal a 20% of physical damage as extra damage. This is the logic. And that's why we go with these multi-crafted swords here. In the past, we would have used a sword and a stat stick for building insane DPS, but since stat sticks were nerfed and they are unusable in this league, we have to run double one-handed swords for this. And it would be better if it were if we were in a previous league as well, because the gain percentage of physical damage as extra elemental damage was also nerfed during this league. In the past, you could get up to 40% of physical damage gained as extra elemental damage, and if you follow my build guides, you will be familiar with these kind of things, because during the build guide of my Val Grand Slam Inquisitor, I was using 100 maces that they were running double mods like this with up to 40% damage gained, let's say. So it is a nerf version of previous of the. It is a preview. It is a nerf version of the build guide that you might find on the internet. But it still works. It can still be min-maxed, but the DPS is quite enough, as you will be able to see in my Uber Elder run. So, what do we want from the swords? If you were to buy a sword like this, it would cost you around 6 exalts minimum, so I decided to craft mine. And what you want to do is actually buy a jewel foil that it is saber item with item level 83 minimum, and you want to use a kind of a recipe in order to craft it. So the first thing you're gonna do is acquire the base. Second, you're gonna use some perfect fossils in order to make the sword have 30% quality. After that, you're gonna spam alterations on it. And you want to have 3 mods on the mods that you're going to keep. The first and the most essential one of all is the gain percentage of physical damage as extra cold or fire damage. The second one is the critical strike chance, and the third one is the attack speed. As you can see, in this sword I have the strike chance that is not a max tier. I have a tier 1 physical damage gained, and here I have only physical damage gained. And this is because it's very difficult to actually have 2 out of these 3 mods roll with alterations. I bought over 1,000 alterations, and it was a nightmare to get this. Because most of the times you will get the mods you want for, but then you want to annul some of them in order to make space for the multi-crafted mods, and then you might actually annul the mod that you want to have. So it is a nightmare. And since you can craft some of the mods that you want to roll with the alterations, if you hit the tier 1 gain physical damage as extra elemental damage, and either critical strike chance or attack speed at a respectable roll, you will be fine. After that, if you are in a scenario like this, or where you have only the gain one, you go ahead and you use the multicraft. That will cost you 2 exalts, and then you will go for tier 1 physical damage increase. Added physical damage, as you can see, the higher the tier, the better. You will go for attack speed. This is also an exalt one recipe in the crafting bench, so you understand that even crafting the weapon is not cheap. And then you're gonna go for the critical strike chance plus increased quality to the weapon, so it has a better DPS. You can make weapons that use crafted mods that are lower tier, but personally I don't recommend it, because if you want to go out and make very good weapons, because this is the heart of your build, this is where your damage comes from, you want to use the high tier 1 recipes in the crafting bench. So don't be cheap, just apply yourself, set yourself back a few X's and do the weapons as you see them here. The same kind of scenario is followed in the second GL fold. This is a saber item that is a level 84, and then I use the alterations in order to roll the gain a percent of physical damage, extra fire damage, and I was lucky enough to get the critical strike chance as well. Then I multi-crafted and slammed the increased physical damage, the added physical damage, and then because I already had the strike chance rolled with the alterations, I crafted the increased attack speed plus the item quality here, and this costed me around, let's say, 5x per weapon, so it is kinda cheaper if, instead of buying the weapon ready, let's say. Okay. As you can understand, as I talked before, the logic behind the build is to build a lot of physical damage and then convert the percentage of it to elemental damage, and this is why we craft so much physical damage rolls. And since we use Blade Flare for our single target, we have to have a high amount of attack speed, because this is how the stages of Blade Flare actually scale. And you want to reach those 6 stages as fast as possible, so you can release and then repeat in order to deal the maximum damage you can. Okay, that's enough for the weapons. Now we're gonna talk about the build. It is CGM wise pretty standard stuff. You gain some life and resistances from here, and you can craft 3 things here. If you do not have a CGM wise that provides you with elemental damage with attacks, you can roll that. You can you can craft the increased damage, or you can craft what I have, which is the increased effect of flask on you. This is the tier 3 recipe in the crafting bench. If you want to actually go out and give another exalt, you can get the tier 4 that will provide you with a 7 to 8% increased effect on flasks on you. But for the time being, because I was poor from building this this build, I decided to go with the tier 3 recipe, and it performs just fine. After that, for boots, we have the cam roots. These were just some cheap ones with a perfect life roll. You will be deprived from sockets and resistances, and it will be kinda hard to balance the resistances to get them to 80% since you use the boot slots for cam roots, but the insane amount of life you gain from here, plus the cannot be knocked back, the action speed cannot be modified below base value, and the unwavering stance, sorry my English, is something you really want, especially if you're trying to farm Uber Elders. And I personally made this build in order to become an Uber Elder farmer and do services. So I did try to kill Uber Elder without become roots, and it wasn't not as easy as it's going to be showcased in the video that I'm going to have linked down below. Okay, now we're gonna talk about the gloves. The gloves, you have to have multi-crafted gloves. Okay, but I will talk about the two versions of the gloves. So, since the build was based on Donald Crown's build, he had the exact same gloves, but he had the the suffix mode from the temple that provides the player with 46 to 48% cold rest plus 50% increased damage against chill enemies. You cannot roll this particular mod on spike gloves. Only comes from tier 3 workshop, I believe, in the temple. So if you want to go ahead and farm alvas as much as possible and hope for some gloves of this kind to drop, then you can go ahead and do so. If you were to buy the gloves ready from the market, they start from 15 exalts. So as you can understand, it is a pretty expensive piece of gear, and it is in the same time quite difficult to acquire them yourself. So what I decided to do, since I did not have the currency to buy them, I decided to make the exact same gloves from Donald's build, but without the 50% increased damage against chill enemies. So I took a regular pair of spike gloves. I used the perfect fossil on them to get them to 27% quality, and then it is an item 85, of course. And then I just rolled with alterations in order to get T1 cold res. Then I annulled everything that was useless, and then I started to multi-mod the gloves. I went for the life because you need more life in your gear. I went for attack speed because you need to scale Blade Flurry. The 42% increased damage while leeching is pretty nice as well, because you do leech a lot. And the 20% increased damage during any flask effect is very good as well, because you want to be running flasks quite often in your fights, and this role will provide you with a lot of DPS extra. Now, for the rings, they are both normal steel rings. They are item level 85, both. And what you want to have on them is the added physical damage to attacks, this is for sure. If you can get resistances and life on them, this is fine. This is no problem. As you can see here, we have the add physical damage to attacks as well. The accuracy is useless. Resistances as well here, crafted and rolled as well. And the thing about these rings is that you must have the 10% of physical damage as extra fire damage, and this is to scale your elemental damage due to the theory of the build that we talked before. Now, as you can see, one of my rings actually has the aspect of a spider on it, and if you can have it, it is a very nice layer of defense. It is providing with a defensive tool that does a lot of work. But if you can't craft this, or if you cannot actually buy one of these because they are expensive, then just go for your you will be using probably Herald of Purity instead of that, in order to have the maximum usage of your mana. But anyway, now you can acquire rings like this with in two ways. You can actually buy them. I bought mine both for 1 exalt, and one of them had an open suffix mode, and then I crafted the aspect of the spider. Or you can craft them with fossils, because two of the mods here, I believe they come only from essence crafting. I'm not sure about it. The percentage of physical damage, extra damage is 100% just from essence. So you understand you do need something that will provide different aspects to crafting, and the fossils are the way to go. But if you don't want to gamble, I strongly suggest you buy them. I mean, 1xL for these are pretty okay. Now for the amulet, we go for the global strike multiplier. We go for the 20% physical damage extra cold damage. You can see that every piece of gear is giving us a percent of physical as extra damage, as I said before. And then the cast speed, of course, here is useless. I multi-crafted mine in order to have some life and some increased damage while leeching, because it was a nice thing to have, actually. Okay, so we talked about every piece of gear here. Let's talk about the flasks. We have a diamond flask that has crafted the increased critical strike chance during flask effect. If you haven't unlocked the recipe in the crafting bench, you can buy one of those for something like 80 chaos for a perfect roll of critical strike chance. I mean, that's how many chaos I paid for mine. Then we have a lion's roar for the armor and the knockback along with the increased physical damage. Then we have two instant regen divine flasks with immunity to freeze and immunity to bleed. And finally we have an Azirius promise because it gives us a 20% physical damage gain as extra chaos damage, which is actually very, very nice. Okay, now we talked about the gear here. Now we will talk about some gems, about the gem links. So let's start with the main ability here. For the map clear, I am using Tectonic Slam, linked with melee physical damage, elemental damage with attacks, hypothermia, increase the area of effect, and multi-strike. If I were to fight a mini boss outside of tier 16 maps, I just swap my increased area of effect with concentrated effect, and the damage is fine. Now, if you want to farm Saper, Guardians, or any kind of hardcore boss, what you do is actually swap Tectonic Slam with Blade Flurry, the increased area of effect with the concentrated effect, and the Bullet Strike for the main. And you have a very nice setup here for the single target DPS and the maximum DPS of the build. But as you can see, there is a problem with this particular setup, and this is the color of the sockets in the lower wave. If you do not have a lower wave that has white sockets, you cannot really change the Tectonic Slam and the Blade Flurry. So there is an alternative way for this. Instead of using Tectonic Slam, you can go for Reeve, and particularly Val Reeve, because a Val Reeve has the same color. It is a green gem, and the supports are the same color as well, so you won't have any problems. But because I did like Tectonic Slam better, I decided to run Everreach in research and make my lore with to have a white socket here, so I can freely change. Now let's go to the other links. In my gloves I have my mobility setup, which is Lip Slam, Blood Magic, Fortify, and faster attacks. Very typical setup for movement skill. Here we have the Val Double Strike, which is a very, very nice DPS provider in every melee build, to be exact, and we support it with melee physical and chance to bleed support. In the other sword we have cast when damage taken with a cold snap, with the chance to gain frenzy charges, and the cold damage is nice as well, and frost bomb because we want some extra cold damage and the minus 25 to cold race against the enemies as well. Now in the helmet, finally we have our ancestral protector, because when we place the totem we gain a lot of attack speed, which scales the blade very even better. We have our war banner, which gives us adrenaline when we actually place it down in 50 stacks. And we have level 21 Blood Rage because it is cheap and we want the frenzy charge and the attack speed, as I said before. And finally we have Hatred, because Hatred is actually the only aura between Hatred, Wrath and Anger that does not just add cold damage to attacks, but instead we gain a percent of physical damage as extra cold damage, as you can see here, and it synergizes very well with the setup we have with Frostbomb and Cold Snap and Hypothermia as well. And if you were to have the gloves that deal 50% increased damage against seal enemies, you can see that we have a great synergy of damage there. Okay, I believe we talked about every gem in the build, so the final thing we must talk about are the jewels. So, in my belt I have an Abyss Jewel that gives us multiplier, life and attack speed. If we've dealt a critical strike recently, you can get one of those for 1 Exalt. And if you were to go all out and buy extremely expensive jewels, you would like to have a double crit multi plus life or attack speed, but they go for 45 exalts each, so you will see in the overall run that they are not that necessary. You can do your job fine with just one of those guys here. And now let's talk about the skill tree. As I said before, we are a champion. We use the Conqueror, the Worthy Foe, the First Strike Last to Fall, and the Unstoppable Hero for the attack speed while fortified. So, we have to talk about this note here because, as you may know, this ascendancy point actually gives us a lot of adrenaline for 20 seconds when we are low life. And what you can do is actually use a setup here using your offhand, not offhand, your secondary weapon with blood magic, punishment, and blasphemy support, because you can swap your weapons before you enter the boss fight, like here, and as you can see, we gain the adrenaline. And what you do is actually swap the weapons, activate the punishment, and then swap again and use an instant flask in order to heal up to max. I was very slow here, that's why I did not have the instant recovery, but if I were to use my macro, wait again, as you can see it works and I gain the adrenaline pretty fine, and then I enter the boss room and have insane attack speed, along with my Val skills, the Protector, the adrenaline from here, and Blood Rage. So as you can understand, the DPS output, it is insane. This is it for ascendancy points. As for the tree, we start from here, we go down here, we grab some life, some more life, some weapon critical strike chance, then we move here to gain some more life, crit, a jewel socket. You're gonna have to run a lot of jewels in this build because it is a very significant source of damage. You gain your sword nodes here. Acrobatics and phase acrobatics are very nice, especially in endgame scenarios. And then you go up to get your life and your main critical nodes here. And finally you go to the left side of the tree, you grab some more jewel sockets here and here. You can get up here to the Scion life cluster and grab some more life, but I went to grab the life from here. Go here to get the extra life, fire res, fire damage, and finally to get to this point to get more physical strike chance and multipliers. As for the jewels, first of all I run a Watcher's Eye that provides me with some percent increased max life and a percent of critical strike chance while affected by hatred. Then, because I had to use calm roots, my lightning res was uncapped. So what I did was to actually use 2 jewels with lightning res plus attack speed while dual winning and life in order to cap my lightning res and have the attack speed to scale blade flurry and have some more tankiness as well. Then we go here. Here we have a jewel that has attack speed again while dual wielding, crit multiplier, a good amount of increased life, and the ignite on enemies was is nothing to be worried about. It was just there when I bought it. And finally we have another jewel here that provides us with attack speed while dual wielding, strike multiplier again, and percent maximum life increase. Each of these jewels goes for 80 chaos to 1x depending on the market, and the Watcher's Eye goes for around 3 exalts. And this is pretty much for my skill tree. I believe we talked about everything here. Yeah, we talked about that. Oh yeah, let's talk about the Pantheon. I really like to use the Soul of the Branking in the Uber Elder fights because the freeze defensive stats it gives us here is very, very nice. And I use Soul of Yugul as well for the reduced cold damage, because we do take some increased cold damage for from our helmet here. What I wanted to actually say is that for Flask you can take out one of these guys and use a Sulfur Flask for increased damage, or you could use a Taste of Hate, I guess, but it doesn't really work anymore. So the Sulfur Flask would be nicer because you will have the freeze immunity and the increased damage as well, but to be honest, you really don't need any more damage than this, and having 2 instant recovery flasks is a very, very safe way to actually play the game. And as you can see, we use Hatred, War Banner and Aspect of the Spider here. And finally, in case you you want to know the NTX used in this build, we do use the full Dragon Hunter pack with the helmet, armor, wings, gloves and boots, along with the portal. And for the weapon effects we use the automaton one and the mystic weapon one. And finally, for our aura we use the betrayal aura effect along with the sin lip slam effect. That's gonna do it for this time around, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, this is going to be the final guide for this league. I'm going to be uploading videos for my series PoE Explained from now on, because the league is pretty much done for me. I'm gonna be running this build and doing other services as well, and nothing more. To be honest, I'm just gonna grind some currency and gain experience while farming the Uber Elder. Again, thank you very much for watching. You can catch me live when I stream. After the 22nd of February I will be streaming quite a lot, and I hope we can actually have a talk and exchange opinions about build ideas and such when I'm on stream, or if you join my Discord, which the link will be down below as well. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.